Hey everybody, and welcome to Yarn Talk, where we highlight the latest knitting news, trends, and interview top designers every 2 weeks. I'm Heidi, and today I'm going to talk to you guys about the vest trend.
I'm Allyson, and I have an interview with my designer crush, Leah Coccari-Swift.
And I'm Leah Coccari-Swift. And I'm going to be talking about knitting in the news. Over the past decade or so, we've seen a lot of stories about knitting and crochet being used to demonstrate concepts, structures, and forms in the fields of math and science. Knitting, and especially crochet, are perfectly suited to representing a hyperbolic plane, which is a mathematical concept of a surface that expands exponentially as you travel away from a center point. The idea of using crochet to represent a hyperbolic plane came from Dana Taimina, a mathematician at Cornell, who in 1997 realized she could use crochet to represent a hyperbolic plane, which is a very complex concept, by increasing the number of crochet stitches at a set rate each row. Before this, there was not really a good way of representing a hyperbolic plane, even with a computer model, so this was a big deal. This idea of using crochet to create hyperbolic planes then inspired the famous crochet coral reef, which since 2007 has been traveling all over the world to major art galleries and museums. Coral grows in hyperbolic forms, so crochet was a perfect way to create a realistic yet whimsical version of undersea life. The Institute for Figuring was founded by Margaret Wertheim, who is a cultural historian and science author. Margaret, along with her sister Christine and thousands of other crafters, eventually created this massive coral reef, which at this point is most likely the largest community art project in the world. 99% of the people who worked on this project are women, and a lot of Margaret's work focuses on this really interesting interaction between what are traditionally considered to be feminine handicrafts and science and math. Margaret has a really interesting TED Talk on the subject, which you should check out. Many more scientists, mathematicians, knitters, and crocheters have explored this intersection between craft and science. So keep your eyes peeled for more examples of math and science crafting. The number of projects seems to be growing exponentially.
Sure, I've already knit my co-host Leah Coccari-Swift's Cape Vertigo, but I loved it so much that I would knit it again. Stranded, super interesting colorwork knit in the round from the top down and steeked, this cape has barely left my shoulders since I found it off last summer. I sit on my couch wearing it when it's cold, I throw it on as a jacket when it's cool, I wear it over my winter coat as a massive scarf when it's really cold. I want one in every color combination. Scared of steeking? This was my first steeked project, and despite a few tears, it turned out great. Find Cape Vertigo at hollowknits.com.
As summer begins to wind down into fall, knitters everywhere start thinking about projects they want to cast on for the season change. Starting in about early spring of this year, a lot of neutral color, understated vests started appearing in fashion magazines and blogs, and inevitably out in the real world as well. Vests sometimes get a bad rap, I think, because of some of the more retro trends that people associate with vests. But vests are actually a really fun, currently fashion-forward thing to play with in your wardrobe because they add a lot of structure and shape to your silhouette. So whether that's accentuating some shoulders or a waist or maybe slimming your hips, a vest is something that's really fun to play with. The knitting world has embraced the vest trend by releasing a bunch of great transitional weather designs throughout the spring, summer, and into the fall of this year. Some of my favorite recent releases include Lil Joe by Wool and the Gang, which is a great structured piece, the lattice-covered Longdendale by Sarah Hatton with its classic vest style, and the Galloway by Lisa Richardson with gorgeous cables and an added hood. You can find these and more of my best vest picks on our YarnTalk Pinterest board, which is linked to in the description of this video on YouTube. As a city dweller, I like to wear a good vest when I have to take the train into work because it slips so easily on and off, but it keeps my core warm without being too stifling for the rest of me as I walk around. Now, I realize that not everybody in the world lives in a big city and takes the train to work. I still recommend that everybody try to cast on one of these fun vest designs that's been coming out this year, because one vest, depending on its shape, can add a totally new variable to your wardrobe, making it stretch even further.
My pick this week is Familiar by Justyna Lorkowska, a beautiful tunic-length cardigan. The construction of this sweater is what drew me in, with its unique sideways knit waist and proliferation of cables, including one on the pocket. This pattern can be found in the ebook Impulsive Knits, available on Ravelry.
To us that you might not know us very well, so we wanted to take a minute to have an interview with the co-hosts of Yarn Talk, starting with Leah Coccari-Swift, who's a wonderful designer that everyone should know very well. So we are just gonna dive in with what inspires you. What's your design style like?
I'm inspired by a lot of things. Mostly the natural world is my primary inspiration. I also love math and geometry, so that really works in with knitwear design very well. Also bright colors, anything that's vibrant and pops, I will find a way to incorporate it into my designs.
And we see that a lot in your designs. I love your nature aspect. I feel like that makes you really unique in this community, because a lot of people take inspiration from more fashion, but you work nature into fashion, and they marry really well. Yeah.
Thank you.
So what inspired you to start designing?
Well, I think like most knitters, I have always tweaked my pattern or designs. When I knit someone else's pattern, I've always adjusted it or tweaked it a little bit. So really that's where it started. And originally I just saw this scarf that someone else had made, and I was like, I think I have a better idea for how that could be done.
Nice.
So I did it, and that was one of my first patterns.
Yeah, I think you're right. A lot of designers think that they are the best at everything. I know that's how I design. I think like, oh, that's a cool idea, but I can do it better.
Right. Yeah. I would say I think that I'm the best at it, but well, you know what I mean.
I think that you're the best at it. I'll say it.
I feel like I could put my own spin on it.
Yes. Oh. Well, I think you're the best at it, so we'll just go with that.
We'll go with that.
So here at Yarn Talk, we're really big into animal photobombs. Since we're in the studio, we're not going to get one of those, but if you could pick an animal to bomb this interview right now, which animal would you want?
Well, I would choose my dearly deceased pet, who is a guinea pig named Spike.
We haven't had a guinea pig yet, so that would be perfect. Yeah. Shout out to Spike.
He's no longer with us and hasn't been for a few years, but he was my little spirit animal, so I would choose him.
Well, then we can dedicate this interview to Spike up in guinea pig heaven. If you would like to get to know Leah a little bit more by knitting one of her patterns, please leave a comment at YarnTalkShow.com for your chance to win any one of Leah's amazing patterns. Thanks so much, Leah.
Thank you.
Amanda Lily's Bliss shawl is an ever so slightly curved shawl that can do triple duty as a scarf, a wrap, or a cowl. The subtle shaping in this piece is accomplished with short rows. Shell-shaped lacework runs along its cast-on edge, and the design is finished with an edge featuring the natural curling of stockinette stitch. Thanks everybody for watching this episode of Yarn Talk.
Keep up with the show using hashtag YarnTalk, and remember to go to YarnTalkShow.com and leave a comment on this episode for a chance to win one of Leah's patterns.
And be sure to check out our Pinterest board where you can see what we're working on and what's inspiring us for the next episode.
Bye guys!